Is there any truth in the suggestion one hears that this government has been dragging its feet on AIDS because of your distaste for the whole subject?
No, we haven't been dragging our feet on AIDS.
We are going to have a serious problem with AIDS. And that warnings have been going out now for 3 years at least. The problem's been apparent for 4 years. If only they'd listened sooner.
They're always saying something, but do you want to know the truth? Do you know what it really is, AIDS?
My name is Omari Douglas and I play Roscoe Babatunde in It's a Sin. Well, Roscoe is kind of leading two lives. He's working on a building site and at the same time, there are hints that he's running off and having a lovely old time on the gay scene in London. And unfortunately, that doesn't really sit well with his family at home. They are a very traditional, conservative, religious family. And he's presented with an ultimatum. And a pretty huge one, which is to either leave home or to head back to his native Nigeria. And the consequences of that are kind of pretty unknown and sort of quite scary for him. So he flees home. He kind of has this butterfly moment and he just sort of soars off into the world and he ends up finding his tribe and finding a group of people, and it means that he can start living in his truth and just be this authentic self, which is just so vibrant and brilliant and bold and audacious. And yeah, he finds his people, and then of course the story then charts their lives. It's just they're growing up.
Now hit me with those lasers, please.
And of course they're faced with this huge thing, which is the onset of HIV/AIDS, and it affects their lives in various ways. I think there's always hints of it that are sort of appearing right from the beginning. That is sort of the reality of it, just all this joy and just enjoying life, and then suddenly everything just kind of gets flipped upside down. And that is what happened to generations of people. They literally were sort of living their best lives, I guess you could say. And then all of a sudden, this thing creeps in. And of course, like in the show, you see kind of denial and sort of a great deal of kind of like cynicism towards it and just a lack of understanding.
You get all these stories and all these rumours and all these nightmares because that's what they want you to think.
The sources of information were so sparse, and you see that in the show as well, like the characters sort of like really having to push to find good sources of information about what is really going on. A lot of it is just titterings and sort of murmurs of what's going on, and it's all just sort of like simmering underneath, and then gradually it becomes real. People are realizing that COVID is not selective, and I think people were misled with HIV/AIDS that it was selective and that it only targeted certain people. And there were so many headlines, there were so many phrases being chucked around. You hear it in the show about that it was a gay cancer or a gay plague. Completely unfathomable ways of sort of expressing these things. And again, it vilifies people and it polarizes communities, that kind of language. What was particularly interesting in this country is that the government were very unwilling to have open dialogue about the sort of causes of the disease. You know, obviously because it was so prevalent within the gay and queer community, that was already a community that they didn't want to talk about. But also our government didn't want to talk about sex. And it was so important to talk about things. If we were ever going to like further the research on sort of like the causes and how to progress, they didn't want to talk about it. There was very much a sense of ignorance. And, you know, it's funny saying that, you know, one of the kind of like British sort of like advertising campaigns, the public health campaigns, was AIDS don't die of ignorance. I mean, it's sort of a strange word to use when actually like the people in power were the ones who were being ignorant. And that was the cause of death. Like their ignorance prevented people from surviving. There's been so much portrayal of the disease sort of in its birth, I guess you could say. We've seen a lot of that. I think that can sometimes lead us to this idea that happened and that there's nothing going on now. There are millions and millions and millions of people who are still living with HIV today. However, the progress that we've made has allowed people who do have HIV, and of course, you know, for people who have access to treatment, you know, there's still a difference in sort of like how the Western worlds are able to sort of deal with the disease compared to people who aren't there and don't have the access to the information. But, you know, you can now live a very sort of like healthy and regular and normal life with the virus, thanks to, you know, combination therapy treatment. And, you know, of course, there is a huge, you know, campaign that's been going on for a long time now called U equals U, which means undetectable equals untransmissible. And yeah, you know, there comes to a certain point in people's treatment where you literally cannot pass on the virus to partner or anyone in that matter. And I think, you know, it's really important that we are getting that information out there, because stigma lasts. It's such a lasting thing, and we haven't eradicated that yet. And I think it's because people don't know this kind of information. We've definitely made progress, but we kind of like have to keep pushing. This is very much an ongoing thing.